Chazak Baruch, good morning, everyone. Loretta, I see that you brought in your techie support this morning to make some adjustments to your computer. Good morning, Brian. How are you? Your technical support in the house.
Yes, I have two screens. I've got the Surface and then a big screen, and the big screen isn't working.
Well, it was lovely to see Brian.
So,
and clearly he's fixed things. Good morning. So the first of all, very sad to hear about the passing of Rabbi Twersky. Rabbi Abram Twersky died of COVID, but at an old age. Another great loss. We've really just lost some of our, as I texted to Ellie, we've lost our greats this year. Some of the, all the great personalities. And so there must be another clutch of greats which are hanging around in the wings, waiting to reveal themselves. And I just can't wait to see who they're going to be, because it just feels like there's a dearth of greats in the world at the moment. But a very extraordinary year that there's just so many of our great personalities have passed away. At any rate, a young lady from New York writes to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. She has two problems. The first is that she's very keen on fasting, and she'd like to fast more often because she thinks it's a very good, holy thing to be doing. And the second thing is that she wants to get married. Now, whether the two are entirely compatible or not is another matter. I'm not sure that anybody wants to marry a woman who's fasting all the time. But at any rate, she writes with these two issues to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And in regard to the first one, he says, the idea of undertaking a course of fasting, he said, it's really not advisable. It's not, these days, one should not take on any extra fasts in addition to the ones that are already mandated in the Shulchan Aruch. Because fasting weakens physical health. It also weakens the vitality and the vigor with which a Jew is expected to serve God and to live one's own personal life, as well as one's capacity and ability to do good and promote Judaism and Jewishness in one's surroundings, all of which has to be done in a happy frame of mind. And the reality is that when you are fasting, you feel miserable. So really don't recommend that you should fast. Bad idea. What about getting married? Well, that's a good idea, but how are you going to go about it? He said, oh, by the way, he says, if you have already made a vow about fasting, if you're not yet made a vow about fasting, you should not make a vow now. But if you have made a vow about fasting, you should approach a Rav with a view to having him release you from the vow. However, he said, if you really, really want to fast, then here's another idea. Why don't you give charity for the value of the meals that you would normally eat on the day that you would have chosen to fast? Isn't that a brilliant idea? Psychologically, he's given her an out that's going to make her feel good without her having to fast. The subject of shidduch. I'm sure you will not take amiss the following observation. Almost all shidduchim these days, and of course he's talking to quite a religious girl from New York, are done with the help of shadchanim, or friends who act as shadchanim. And because people are usually too busy or lack the opportunity to find a suitable shidduch for themselves. Of course, the function of a shadchan is merely to make a suitable introduction, and then each of the parties can take it from there freely and without pressure. And therefore, if this procedure has not been followed in your case, it would be advisable for your parents to find an energetic shadchan, and may God grant that this effort will serve in the natural way as a channel for God's blessing. So the whole concept here of a shadchan, of somebody who makes introductions, is something which we'll talk about with our onliners when we have a little bit more time shortly. But for the moment, let's have Kol Yisrael, and we shall continue onwards.